Hello and welcome to this instalment of Talking Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we are looking at the rear luggage area of the Jaguar E-Type 2+2 models. So that's the four-seater version of the car, the one with the rear seat in the back of it, the rear bench seat, not the two-seater coupe, so it's the four-seater coupe basically. And what I've got here is I've laid out all of the areas of the car that are kind of situated in the rear luggage area. So anything kind of behind the rear seat. There are a couple of items that cross over into the main cabin area due to the size of them, mainly the wheel arches and the rear side casings. But I've tried to basically keep it succinct and just the rear luggage area parts. Now, all of these parts are included as part of our trim kit as standard, apart from a couple of optional extras, which I'll name en route. Basically anything that's kind of bagged up or clearly a different colour, they are optional extras. I'll go over those as I go through. But everything else is included as standard in our trim kit. It's worth noting that you can buy all of these items individually. And when I say individually, I mean in car sets. So for example, the rear side casings are sold as a pair, i.e. a left and a right. Rear luggage floor kit is sold as a kit, etc. So just see our website for details on that, but that's generally how we work as a business. If you do buy it as a trim kit, it does work out significantly cheaper than buying all of those parts individually if you follow. Before I dive too far into this, worth checking out the description below. There's going to be lots of information about these particular items here, including where to buy them on our website. There'll also be some links to some other useful videos that I've done on similar items related to this specific car. And there's also a great link to our materials and colours library. Our materials and colours library goes into details about all of the different shades and all of the different materials that we can offer. We offer by far and away the largest and widest range of both colours and materials, both to original specification from the factory, as well as anyone that's looking for a bit more of a bespoke finish. So do check that out. And then it's also worth checking out our blog handbook area, which has some great useful information articles constantly being updated, mainly focused around how we do things as a business. We're very different to other businesses out there and we're very proud of the way we do things. We've got a fantastic reputation worldwide and have done for almost 50 years now for our quality and workmanship. We manufacture award-winning kits and ship them all over the world. And these articles just go into a bit of detail about what we do differently and why it's important, down to the raw materials we use, the suppliers that we work with for those bits and bobs, but then also the manufacturing processes that we adhere to and our pattern making elements of things. So be sure to check that out. The worst thing that you can do while planning your restoration is to assume that other suppliers out there offer the same kits that we do to the same standards. They do not. They might be called the same items, but they are not the same items. So just bear that in mind. It's not like buying a motor litre steering wheel where it's a branded item. When it comes to interior trim, there's all sorts you need to consider. Pattern making, the raw material before even a cut is made, and then the quality and workmanship and the understanding of those products and how they fit in the car. So just bear that in mind. It's what we're known for. So be sure to check that out. Anyway, let's dive on into this kit. So this has been done to OEM specification. All of the bits in this video pretty much are all vinyl, which was, excuse me, the original material used for these specific parts in the car. There are a couple of exceptions, which I'll go through en route. It's been done in cinnamon. Cinnamon is a sort of tan antique colour. It's got like a black mottled effect in the grain. It was an original colour that Jaguar used for quite a few of their interiors. And yeah, so we've done it to OEM. So we've done a whole trim kit for this chap over in Australia. So I'm just doing a few videos. You may have seen my earlier video, which showed the cockpit cabin area items, so anything forward of the rear seats. There are a couple of things that are repeated in here, mainly the wheel arches and the rear side casings. So just bear that in mind and excuse the fact I'm going to repeat a bit of information. Let's start with those items, why don't we? So, got the wheel arches. I've only laid the right-hand one out there because I ran out of space on our CNC machine. So that's the right hand. Obviously, we do supply them in a pair. So that's the right-hand one, front of the car, top, etc. And they're the bits that sit sort of below the side rear window and span into the back luggage area of the car. It's a sewn cover with some piping on it. As you can see, the piping we strip out at the end here, so it allows you to grab hold of it and pull hard for tension in trimming to get rid of any creases and crinkles as you go along. It comes with foam as standard, and obviously it's a two-piece bit sewn together with piping, and then you also get this material for the inspection plate panel that sits roughly there on the wheel arch there. It's worth noting that for the 2+2s, I believe they had 3 different versions of wheel arches. This is by far the most common version. Probably 80% of the cars had this off the top of my head. But there was a 2-piece version, which is pretty much this, but cut in half, slightly overhang to allow a bit of a overlap of them. And then they had what I believe they refer to as the second continuation, which was a lot more moulded items at the front of the car next to the B-posts and the side pillar element of things. We have patterns for all of them, so just bear that in mind. But this is by far and away the most common version. So that's the wheel arches. Let's just see if I've got a picture in the book I can refer to. Oh yeah, perfect. So wheel arch, you can see it there, coming down here, around there, and that's the little inspection plate panel there that you get material to retrim that. Then you have the rear side casings. They sat above the wheel arch. They went sort of around that element there and bent round into the back of the car. You can see them bending around there. This is the right hand one that you can see the face of at the moment. Left hand one is underneath. Obviously the cutaway there on the right hand one is for the lock mechanism of the rear door hatch, this piece here. And then on the underside one there, which is the left hand one, you have the 2-piece cutout, which is for the hinges, which are situated on the other side, as you can see there. So there are all the cutaways there, piped, trimmed all the way around apart from a couple of the ends, which we leave flaps because that coordinates and overlaps with the front side panel casing. You have the little semicircle cutout there, which is half of the cutaway for where the seatbelt retainer goes in there, the other half being on the front side casing. See my other video for that element there. They're a bit of a weird panel because they kind of sit almost like downward like that and bend round, so this part here ends up really bending round and becoming horizontal and almost butting up to the side of this rear panel that I'll come to in due course. So they're the rear side casings, obviously sold as a pair, as I said there. Now excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. Rear luggage floor. So this is obviously the main piece that you kind of see as you open up the rear hatch door. It's this area here. So they're plywood panels, covers up the spare wheel area there, and they get trimmed in a material. And then they get the luggage rails on them and the rubber, whatnot. We supply as standard the vinyl for re-trimming your original plies. We can of course supply plies if you like, same with the rails and the rubbers. Not something we tend to supply as standard, but we can do. We do encourage people to reuse their originals where possible, as you know that they work. They also come with the side panels here. Those side panels fit to the side of the rear frame of the rear seat structure. Millboard panel, trimmed all the way around apart from around that edge there, as you can see, which gets tucked around the actual panel area there, so you get a pair of those. You also get some piping, and then this is leather, skived on our in-house leather skiving machine, and they are for, you get a sort of a rubber, shaped rubber that goes down this curved piece here, so the leather covers that rubber piece there, and then the piping you can just about make out in that picture there, the beading going down there. So that's what all of that is for. So that's the rear luggage floor. Obviously just to go over the main pieces, 3 main pieces are kind of for the floor area there, as you can see. So 1, 2, 3, and then the other pieces there are for the bulkhead and the kind of underside element of the rear seat structure. We make our patterns generic. The rear seat did change. It had a sort of a mechanism on the later cars, I believe, so it could allow it to slide back a bit further, which semi-affected the rear floor area, but we make our patterns big enough to cover our bases for both versions, so bear that in mind. Going back to the rear side casings, probably should have covered this before. Obviously the hinge and locks that I mentioned before, we offer as standard the hinge and lock retrim kits. So they're sewn covers to recover your original mouldings. They're included as standard in our trim kits. For an optional price, you can get new moulded panels as per these ones here. However, bear in mind they are very limited on the colours available. It's maybe 4 or 5 different colours. So this is a prime example. Cinnamon kit, you can't get a cinnamon. Biscuit's the nearest match, but it's not a great match. So we supply these and you can retrim your original ones. Alternatively, we can supply molded plastic ones if the color matches and if you need them, or for an extra cost we can trim our covers onto those panels there. I've got videos showing those trimmed up, so be sure to check that out. Going back to this sort of section here, you got this rear cover panel. It's a trimmed aluminium panel with fixings in the back and foamed up. Kind of the rear valance. It sits kind of down there, where just below where the rear hatch kind of opens up. So again, that is supplied as standard in our trim kit. Then finally, we're kind of looking at the rear hatch door area. Now, all of these parts here are pretty much generic for all of the 2+2s, apart from the changes I did mention on the wheel arches there for the second continuation, but for the most part they are generic. Rear hatch, pretty much the same again. The only major difference is the Series 3s were the only one that had this cutaway in the middle of the panel. The majority of them did not, so just bear that in mind. But the rear door panel, it's a 3-piece kit. It consists of a trimmed panel here, a semi-trimmed panel there, and then as standard in the trim kit and in our rear door panel kit, you get the material element of this. We've actually trimmed this up to a new plastic moulding, but you get the U-shaped piece of material to retrim your original moulded panel. But for an optional extra, similar to the hinge and lock concept, we can supply an untrimmed moulded black plastic if you need one, or we can supply it fully trimmed up, ready to go into the car like that. So just bear that in mind. Rear door panel, trimmed all the way around, very nice job. All of the relevant fixing holes, etc. in it there. Like I say, this one's semi-trimmed round to allow for trimming in situ to the rest of it there. That's that little bit there, and that's obviously that rear moulded plastic piece there. And then finally, you've got the aperture. So the aperture is, yeah, you can kind of see it going around there. I think that's probably the best image. Again, sorry, trim kit, we supply material, easily enough material to retrim that in the exact same color as the rest of your trim. However, we do offer a molded rubber, which has a, there you can see the lip on it there if I get the camera angle right. There we are. But again, limited colours, probably 4 colours in that as well. Again, biscuit's the closest one, so depends how you feel on that particular area. People go for black sometimes to just keep it neutral, but what you can do is get one of these, retrim it in that, job done. So that's supplied as standard in the trim kit. That's an optional extra. Yeah, I think that's covered it. Hopefully kept that fairly neat and succinct. Hope so. Anyway, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with other classic car enthusiasts, and be sure to check out some of our other related videos, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.